Hello, welcome back to Only Pistols. Today we're having a look at a Daisy Powerline 747. This is a 177 single stroke pneumatic target pistol. Let's start by looking at the markings on it. So on this side you've got Daisy for the manufacturer and then Powerline 747 for the model. The ammunition is 177 caliber or 4.5mm and the diablo showing it's lead pellets, not PB. On this side, on the underside of the cocking lever, so you can focus on it, you've got instructions for use on how to use the pistol, and then free instruction manual right to Daisy for Rogers, Arkansas, and a model number which is 72755. On the side of the frame there, Daisy, Rogers, Arkansas, USA, going for the production site. And then on the base of the grip, you've got 8E00317, and that's the date code and serial number. We'll touch on that again later in a bit of a further look at it. So the rear sights, adjustable for windage and elevation, and they're not click adjustable, but they are marked, so you've got a good guide to what's going on, both for windage and elevation, and the direction to adjust it is marked on there as well. So a really good sight, and a nice wide picture, bit shiny. So yeah, if you wanted to use them a lot for competition, you'd probably black them down with some spray paint, but not bad. Pretty good sight. The foresight is just molded into the foresight front cover there, and that is just a simple ramp blade, and it's got some serrations in front of it to try and cut down on glare. Not a bad sight picture. Not replaceable, obviously. Muzzle is just a plain finished crown, nothing else, and the barrel is an all steel rifled Lothar Wolfar barrel, and yeah, a very good barrel. So otherwise, construction, as I said, steel for the barrel, cast aluminium for the foresight, brass tube for the compression tube. You can see the brass inside there. Cast aluminium or an aluminium loading, cast aluminium loading lever or cocking lever for the compression, and then cast aluminium sides for the side of the pistol with the markings cast into it, and then a casting which makes up the trigger housing and the grip frame. Other controls, you've got a crossbolt safety, and indicating this is a later one is the fact that safety's got a shroud on it. So earlier ones you just had the button sticking through, whereas now you've got a shroud, so you have to actually really get your finger in there to push the safety off. Trigger is a single stage trigger. It's adjustable for weight with this screw here. So wind it out and that reduces the pressure on it. Wind it in and that increases the weight. It's just controls the spring. And the grip, as you can see, is a two-piece plastic grip that fits around the grip frame, held in place by these screws. Not a bad profile actually, with a decent thumb rest. So the only thing it's really missing to help you would be some form of palm shelf. On top here you've got a loading bolt. So this bolt does two things. First of all, if you lift it up and pull it back, cocks the hammer and opens the loading port. So from there you can see you've got a pellet probe with an O-ring for a seal on it, and to set the pistol you quite simply push that forward and it just locks down into this little gap here, so that's all that's holding it back. So that's it opened up, and with that opened up like that, that's set the trigger, So you do now actually have a dry fire setting, so you can squeeze the trigger back and the trigger goes. So as you can see, there is a kind of a two-stage bit. There's a free travel, and then moves a step, and then goes. So it's quite a long trigger, but it brakes very, very predictably and very reasonably. So loading it, it's a single stroke pneumatic, so it's very easy. You need to have the hammer dropped so that the air can be drawn in through the valve. So you open the lever up, and that pulls the piston forwards. With this open now, you can see the O-ring that makes up the compression seal itself, and then the aluminium body of the piston. So you've got a felt washer there which has oil on it for lubrication, and this front part of the piston can be adjusted to give more or less contact with the front of the piston, and that is how it has worked from this slot here onto the slots in the front piece. So it's literally you put a screwdriver in and you're winding it in either direction. Then you've got the rest of the body, which again is aluminium for the piston shuttle, so that just slides in the brass tube. And then you've got a steel link back to the cast aluminium loading lever. So with that all the way forward, if you now just close that, you don't get anything because you're just pushing the air back through the open valve. With the lever open, you now lift the bolt, cock it. That now closes the valve. So when you get hold of that lever, just pull the lever back, and that's now compressed the charge of air between the end of the piston and the valve. Load it then, quite simply, place a pellet into the loading tray, and you just push the probe forwards, seat it, and then put that down. And to fire it, it's quite simply, and it fires. So bits about that. It's quite an easy long pull for the throw. What you've not got is any compound link or anything, so you're quite simply pushing that back. So compared to some other single stroke pneumatics, this really does rely on there being just the force that you put onto it. It doesn't help it in any way by compounding it. That probably limits the power a bit. It's not a difficult process and it's not a heavy compression, but then the pistol isn't making a massive amount of power, so that's fine. So again, drop the pellet in, push the probe forward and close it, and fires. Very nice, very repeatable trigger, very, very easy to use and very, very predictable in how it's actually going to work. One of the other things then about setting it up, and I was mentioning again this business with the front of the piston there. So when you set it up, the guidance should be that it is between 1 1/4 and 1 1/2 inches from here back to the body. An easy way of doing that is to make up a cardboard template. So quite simply, lean that against the body of it, and you can see that that's just over, it's kind of midway between 1.25 and 1.5 inches. So that's set up pretty much perfectly as far as I'm concerned, to give you as much compression as possible without overstressing anything. So accuracy, it's a target pistol. Daisy sell it as a target, a match air pistol. It is accurate. Excuse some of the damage to the target, they were bouncing back off the backstop, but yeah, that's pretty good. 5 shots there, and it's accurate. It should be. It's got a Lothar Wolfer barrel. The trigger is adjustable to a certain extent, and it makes a moderate amount of power, so you're not trying to over compress it. I'm going to be a bit controversial here. I actually prefer this to the 777, and I got both. And if you've seen my earlier video on the 777, One of the things I say about it is actually the grip. And actually, this plastic grip, so other than not having a palm shelf, I find is actually easier to handle. You've still got the depth front to back, and there's nothing you can do about that, quite simply because it's the strap and it's just the shape it is. But I find that grip no harder to get to grips with than the 777 grip. The rear sight I actually find better, because on the 777 you've got a steel sight, fine, but the problem with it is that the sight is taller, which makes the overall pistol taller, and it's quite a tall pistol anyway. But then the inner part of the rear sight moves, whereas with the 747, the entire top of that rear sight, so this part here, so this part and this whole black plate is moving side to side. So you get a much more stable, steady, even looking sight picture. The other thing is, because you've got less height in the rear sight, the foresight is again correspondingly lower. So again, you just come back to that whole thing of the sight picture being lower. And the difference between them otherwise, there isn't any. From the 717 through the 747 to the 777, you're looking at exactly the same compression tube, same loading lever, the same frame. 747 and 777 share the same trigger, metal cast aluminium trigger, and the same adjustment for the trigger setting. So really, the difference between the two is the sights and the grip. And as I said, I find this grip no more difficult than the 777 grip. And that lower sight radius just makes it a bit easier. So dates of production. Well, 1985 to 2010 for production of the 747. So it ran for longer than the 777. And dating it, well, at the time, so 82 to 94, Daisy were using a date code that used the two front numbers, or two front letters, as the a numeric for the end of the year, so 1988, say, and then the second digit as being a letter to signify the month. So from this we can get that this one is an 8 and an E. So it was a May, but then it could have been 1988, 1998, or 2008. Now I'm going to go with probably 98 or 2008, and probably more 2008 on this one, quite simply because of its condition. It's got very little wear on it, these areas here. It's got some, but not a lot. Paint condition is pretty much as good as you can expect. And the other thing was that it came with a box with all the bits of paper in it. Maybe 98 for that typeface. The ability to fit a scope on it. Getting the most out of your Powerline pistol. The advert to say that it has got a Lothar Walther barrel, and shooting for safety. So the very fact that there's that much paperwork, and it came in its original polystyrene box, which is in one piece with the cardboard liner over the top, would suggest to me this is probably a 2008 pistol. So getting on towards the end of production. So a really nice pistol. As I said, controversial. I actually prefer this to my 777. Not that the 777 is going anywhere. I'm hanging on to all of them, I'm afraid. But this is the one that if I'm fancy having a go with with one of the Daisies, this is the one I'll go to. A very lovely pistol if you can get one. And these were made, as I said, 85 to 2010. So there's a good number of them out there. They made a lot of them. It's a more available one. It's one you'll find more often in auctions and for sale. So if you can get one, do. It's a really nice pistol, single stroke pneumatic, so it's self-contained and great fun to shoot, and hours of fun to be had. It's also quiet, so if you want to shoot indoors or in a back garden, this is definitely a pistol to consider, as opposed to a CO2 or anything else where you're going to get some muzzle blast. Really is quite quiet, other than the pellet hitting the backstop. So there you go, the Daisy 747. a true target pistol, single stroke pneumatic. If you've enjoyed this, then please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, tell other people about it. And yeah, otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon with another pistol. Bye.